Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Monday Open. And what a weekend that was! My goodness, we've seen everything. We've obviously had all sorts of stuff going on in 2025, and now we need to talk about why the markets are, of course, doing what everybody doesn't expect them to do, which is stay firm for now. I guess the main argument is that we haven't seen, I guess you would say, further escalation from the weekend stuff. I hope everybody is safe out there. I hope you're doing well. And let's give a shout out to everyone that's joining us here early. We've got Chris, we've got Starman, Stephen, Vincente, Joseph, Jits, Darth, Michelle, Kevin, Julie, and so many others. Welcome, guys, and thank you very much. Make sure to give the stream a thumbs up as well if you enjoy what we do. All right, guys, we're going to talk about stocks. We're going to talk about bonds. We're going to talk about gold, silver, metals, what's going on there. Why are we not seeing this spike in oil? What actually we saw on the weekend, which if you were watching the weekend futures, you would have actually seen oil hit about 80 a barrel, and it's certainly not there right now. And a lot of it comes back to what we've seen the market do in the past, which is, at least in the US, we've often seen this type of thing occur, which is effectively markets to remain maybe initially sell off. I'm sure on the weekend Wall Street futures were down about 1.5% at one point. And then, of course, by the time we got to the open, we were at the 59.20 area. And what happened? Well, the markets obviously rallied from that. And now we're stuck in the dreaded neutral zone. So basically, we're still ready to make a big move. We just don't know which way it's going to go just yet. Let's actually jump on over to the charts and have a look. The reason we don't know is because, and we do know some other things, but we don't quite know this one yet, is because markets have held within this rally area now for a little while. And this is pretty normal. It's what we call a pit, a pullback in time. And this is a classic symptom of a market that is coiling, getting ready for a big move. And it is all happening as you see news. And I saw someone in the comment section before say, if it's in the press, it's in the price. Well, yeah, I guess it's another one of those days where you would expect the market to be incredibly volatile, yet here we are coming into the open and there's almost no move whatsoever. I mean, it's the S&P, for example, is down 0.06, was down about 0.8 in the morning. So what have we noticed? 60-20, I think that's a good level to watch today. And from the options side, we're going to continue to need to watch 5,900 and specifically 60-50. Okay. So I would say the levels I'm putting on the chart right now are really the main levels for you to look at this week. 59.20 from the support side to 5,900. That is your box on the support. 60-20, 60-50. That is your resistance on the upside. 60-20 has had two rejections off it. So clearly there's a seller there. And 60-50 plus, that is a closure above that point, I think will equal an all-time high. If you want to know where the squeeze is going to happen, it's most likely when you get through 60-50 plus, daily close through about 60-70 on the futures, and markets would probably push higher at that point. And you don't really know which way it is yet. If you want to have a tinge, you would say, okay, this would be the better scenario, because what would this give us? Does anyone know? Has anyone got an eagle eye? What is a key indicator that sits around 5,800? There are quite a few, but which is the one that I like the most? And I think a lot of you guys like out there. Darth says, I don't care because I've got calls and I need the print the SPY. Okay. And then here, PPT manipulation, nothing is real. And then we've got here other comments, scared of 59.20. Certainly a key level. And Eugene says, this sucks, lol. What sucks, Eugene? You mean the movement or the something else? What sucks? Let me know. I'm reading your comment right now. I would say the big thing here is probably the 20 weekly moving average. And this was correctly called out by Chris. And basically, you can see here, it's that 20 weekly moving average, the mean reversion. I would like to go back to that zone because it makes more technical sense. So you can see here the markets, how they picked up, how they sold off. Obviously, some consolidation around that area, a very classic pullback. And if you actually go back to the history of some, obviously not all do it, eventually they come back, but oftentimes this is at the classic on a V shape. So when you kind of get this, let's say we go back to COVID times and we talk about this one here, we get close to the high, sound familiar? We consolidate, we hit the 20, We rally off, we hit the 20, rally, hit the 20, and then the rest is history. We keep going up for a bit. The classic again here, V shape, hit the 20, hit the 20, hit the 20, keep going. So it's a pretty good pullback area. It's really what I would generally expect in the markets. And you might be sitting there saying, well, why hasn't that happened? I have a feeling it may happen. I think even though I am, obviously thinking an all-time high is likely based on everything and all the evidence we have so far, I do feel this level is probably likely. And feelings don't make money. So I think the key here is that, okay, yes, I have a feeling. I see a lot of indicators that are overbought. I could make a case for sure. I could make a strong case that there is a bearish read somewhere in here based on the dark pools that we saw last week. So if you remember, Arcape, the biggest trade we've ever seen. Meta, one of the biggest trades we've ever seen. Financials, a massive trade. First in 21 months, guys. First in 21 months. Now, OPEX does tend to bring in big trades, but there's clearly very little risk in these markets. That is, nobody's really worried, it seems, when it comes to actually pricing in any risk. And that's been pretty consistent. We do have a lot of overboughts. We are, of course, neutral. And why I say it doesn't pay to have a feeling, and this is a key, just even for me, for everyone here, is because it doesn't mean you have edge just yet. Where do you gain edge? Let's say the market comes down, hits 5,800. Okay, you may not have known or traded that particular downside. Fine, no problems there. There are reasons why you could be short, by the way, at 60-20 right now. But let's say the market then picks up around here and you see what you call a repeatable process. That could be an excellent trade. And it comes back to one of the other comments that I always say, patience, react, don't predict. Sometimes you might have a feeling about something. That's not really a good idea. Anyone in the chat, you ever had a feeling about a trade and it's kind of gone bad? Anyone ever had that? I'll put my hand up for that one. I've done that a few times, but hopefully you learn from your mistakes. What do they say? Idiocracy is repeating the same thing without learning from it. So you don't want to be doing that whenever possible. Okay, here it goes. Back in the old days. Yep, that's technically true, John. There are quite a wild things going on here. Trident says, that's happened to me. Ghost says here, I have a feeling I know it's going to do the opposite. TX Redman says, too many times. I'm learning to cheat now days. Okay. And Ray says, me, oh yes, burnt plenty on Tesla and NVIDIA because of good feelings. Yeah. When you have the best feelings, that's the worst time. Especially when you think, oh, I've got this, I'm the best. That's when you get burnt because it means you've got the superhero syndrome. So I think the key level for me this week is I would love to see a 5,800. I'm sure a few of you would like to see that. But I'll also take an all-time high, or not all-time high, a new high. And you might say, why would I take either? It's because this one to me confirms probably further strength. This one down here confirms, or at least could confirm, an excellent little hedge fund. Oh, where I missed out on some of these trades. And there could be two big levels there, which is that 5660 gap fill and the 5,800. So I like all of that area. What I don't like is this, which is sideways. Now, if you're invested, nothing to worry about yet. Why? Because, well, is it making new lows? No, it's not making new lows. Is it making new highs? No. But why do you care? You know what I'm saying? So you don't really care. It hasn't changed trend. It's not underneath something like a 5,800. So realistically, it's a series of high highs and high lows. And that's the beautiful thing about trading. You can actually be positioned several different ways here. And it's not necessarily a bad thing when you know what to expect and what the general plays are. So I think you guys probably should need to be looking at those levels. In terms of today and the read that we have on this market, if I had to guess, the market certainly is pricing in no risk. But the key level I'm going to be watching throughout the session is how it interacts with 60-20. And let's have a look at the options here for a second. We've got the options up here for the session. And I'm sure this will be a volatile session for this reason. And that is that we have a lot of options at a couple of different areas. We've got a lot at 6K for the calls. We've got a lot at 60-50. I know I said 60-20, but I think that's going to become an important zone based on TA. And we seem to have a lot sandwiched in within this kind of 100-point range. So what happens out of what we just saw in the weekend? Well, there's probably going to be quite a lot of hedging. And a lot of people are wanting to hedge because OPEX just happened and a lot of expiration occurred. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a fair bit of options, some big dark pools, some big transactions happen possibly over the next 24 hours, and we'll update on those. But did we get the breakout that we thought we might? Not really. We got a new low formed in the morning, but it's quickly spiked back up here. So I think if you're a day trader, you're going to be coming in here and you're going to be saying, okay, where have we seen the market reject? What are we currently seeing in terms of, I'll just pull a fixed range here, in terms of heavy trade zones? And what you'll notice is you get tons between this 60-10 and 60-20 area. I think this is the question mark of today. Do you guys agree? Give us your levels. What have you got in the tank in terms of what level you're looking for? I'm looking to see what happens here because I think a lot of retail could be super confused. It gets up to this level. They think, oh, buy, 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 buy. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the best buy zone when you've seen 1 rejection, 2 rejections, 3 rejections. What's going to happen here, I think, is very, very important. Woolengaba says here, tops are a process. Yeah, topping, of course, takes a long time, especially a major top. So if you think it's like a cyclical top here and the market's going to take ages and ages and ages to, it's eventually going to crash or something like that, then you're looking for a long time top, and generally does take a while. Time is also a risk. Absolutely. 60-20 is for sure the area. Fat calls, trying to play games, most likely, Darth. The only issue I see with going sooner than later is the PA kind of feels like a leading diagonal, at least. That's how I have my EW counts. Okay, so that's Elliott wave. Retail buy, buy, buy equals buy, buy. Eventually, that's what happens. I saw a level at 60-17, which is really close to your level. Absolutely. I think that range is the tight zone here. And we really want to be looking specifically in here. This is going to be that zone that you're very focused on. My buddy says the only risk is not taking a risk. Oh, I like that. The only risk is not taking it. I think you've got to eventually take a risk, but sometimes it's okay to chill. I don't know about that. What do you guys think? That's an interesting one. Just before the close will be pretty big here. Let's actually have a look at the 10-minute charts here for a second. So Markets Rider brings up here. Hi, Tom. On Friday, there was a huge buy volume on the SPX just before the close. Well, you generally do get large trades coming in, or large trades in general around the close. Now, you're saying it's a buy. We do see a lot of transactions in the morning throughout the Friday. So you can see here, we get Friday break up. This is, of course, futures. And then we see a sell down. Now, what I want to do is I want to do the exact same thing, and you're right, with the S&P. So here we've got the real S&P, as in we're actually using the real market here, and we're just going to analyze this. We'll just show you the 2-hour here so you get an idea. The reason we're doing this is just so you can see the real volume that's going through. And if you go to a daily, you'll see the tweezer, notoriously the negative pattern, by the way. This needs a new low. And if it does get a new low, you've got to think 5,800 is in the cards. So this is notoriously weak. A lot of people are going to have shorts on this. And if this therefore goes to the new high, which is that 60-60 plus breakout, 60-50 call wall, you can kind of see how the pressure is on the upside. That's why I don't mind if it stays within the range. A lot of you guys are not going to like that, but I don't mind it because to me, the opportunities lie more down here and the opportunities lie more up here. And there is, of course, the opportunity here with the breakdown or 60-20, watch it today, question mark. There's a lot of ops. I feel like each one of them is slightly different trade style. So some are short term, some are more the longer term stuff. But yeah, I like all of those zones. And again, if you don't follow that, then you've got to just start thinking about, there are different trades and different areas for day traders and swing traders and investors and position bases. Because all of these things are very important when you're thinking about your stop losses, your edge, that kind of stuff. Look at the volume on the main market. Yeah, I'm on the main market. This is the S&P. You're talking about this. You generally do see, fairly large transactions. This is a close. So this is OPEX. Basically, I don't know if I can go to another one, but it's pretty classic, I think, to see these types of massive volumes that come through in these major ones. Pretty sure that's another one somewhere around there, potentially, or there'd be a few here. So when you've got an OPEX, you generally do get a lot of volume. As long as NVDA hits 170, I'm fine with whatever pullback we have. As for cryptos, they have me worried. Alts, except a couple, have been selling very heavily, which might be a great discount, to be honest. Yeah, I agree with that. We're going to get into the cryptos in a moment. Cryptos are quite bad right now, especially Ethereum. To see all that transaction, to see a Wyckoff effectively form, which we'll look at in a moment, is that a warning sign for the markets? It could be. It's not good. I mean, on the charts, it doesn't look good at all. So when I'm looking at the S&P, I think this 60-20, 60-17, 60, whatever you want to call it, this is the area that clearly the shorters sit at. We're very close to that in today's action. So again, if it rejects and sells off today, I'm starting to think 5800s on their cards, and I would prefer that. That makes more sense. Daily 20, a weekly 20, all of these types of reads. Let's have a look at oil. This is why you don't trade oil and with your gut, because you might say, wow, oil should be spiking today, and maybe it should. But you've got to remember, you don't know what the market priced in over here. The market could have priced in this already. If it's in the press, it's in the price. The market often does this type of thing. This is actually a very heavy rejection, and it points towards oil possibly going to 70 a barrel. Would I trade this? Guys in the chat, everyone in the chat, what are you thinking? Are you actually trading oil anymore right now? Welcome as well to the 1,500 people viewing. Welcome ex-viewers. Welcome YouTubers. Thank you very much, guys. Tom, is it easy to know if you have bots in your chat? I'm sure there's some bots in the chat, but I wouldn't say we have predominantly a lot of them here. Trading oil, yes. Yeah, I think oil is tough right now because of the obviously inherent risks up and down. If you were in oil before all of this happened, then you probably did pretty well. There was a good trade down here, in my opinion. I think this was a very good get out of it kind of thing. I'm not sure if we can hit 80. We did actually hit it on the weekend. But yeah, most people, if you ask them, even myself, I would have thought we'd probably open around 80 today. And it was at 80 on the weekend. It makes a lot of sense. But then by the time we actually got to the real market open, we'd already dropped back off just to those highs. And remember what we've shared before. The spikes tend to be initial spike, drop, escalation, back to the highs, drop. That's the way we've traditionally seen oil play out in these circumstances over the last, while. Now you might say this is much worse. Of course it is. But anyway, that's what it's been doing. So oil's doing that. Gold, no changes. Everything's the same. Daily 20, that's what we've been talking about. 34.05, that's the level I'm looking at for the break high. So if you're, really bullish on gold, I guess you could say, well, I'm feeling a bit bullish here with stops below this kind of low, but really it's what I would say is a scale style of technical, because, and again, this is all just potential, make your own decisions, all that type of stuff, guys. 34.05 is the key resistance. I think the key breakout of this saying, okay, I'm ready to go off the daily 20 and go back and resume that upward trend. And the reason why gold is struggling a little bit is because of the dollar. So the US dollar is at the pivotal point. It's at 99. Now, if you have a look here, this is pretty much the supply. So this here area here is the resistance or the supply. We've got an anchored VWAP coming off this area as well. There's a lot going on here. And if dollar chooses to go up, what did we share in our weekend video that was pretty big? So what did we obviously share in the weekend video? This is now heavily shorted. And don't get me wrong, the trend is still currently down on the main timeframes. Daily, weekly, I guess even monthly is probably going down now. But the problem is it's massively shorted. The most shorted since 2018, which was the all-time high of shorting of the dollar. And if we actually have a look at how that played, the dollar ended up going bullish, which was in here. Consolidated for a while and then broke to the upside. So there's no doubt that the market is theoretically going towards this level, 95.50. But you've got to keep in mind, if this changes, right now it's at resistance. So I'd be expecting dollar bears to try to come in sometime around here and push it back down. If that doesn't happen and we go bullish, you're thinking about 101.60, and then possibly even a squeeze to the upside, as everyone thinks the dollar's dead. So obviously, I don't think the dollar is dead then. Alvin says here, platinum is looking more interesting than silver. Yeah, possibly. I mean, platinum, and if you look at palladium, they've both kind of picked up quite nicely. You can see here, platinum, a series of higher highs and higher lows. Obviously, a very solid chart in recent times, not anywhere near as bad as it has been. You've got to remember, platinum's been on breakout. We've talked about this in our private community. Links in the description down below if you're interested in joining that. And some of the guys have been on this one. It's probably starting to exhaust a little bit up here. It's that first TP zone, but in general, yes, and it's in an upward trend. Silver, I've got longer term plans for. You guys know I'm a bit of a metal bull this year and last year and the year before, but I think silver's been looking good for the last 2.5 months. We saw the breakout just recently. We've now got two long leg dojis, which shows that it's at a holding pattern. So is it something I'm worried about? Not really. Be warned though, if you're in silver, I would not say that it won't go down here to 34.50 first. I think this is okay, but I wouldn't put this out of the ballpark. My longer term plans 42, 43 for silver, and I've said that for a while. So for now, still bullish silver, but it doesn't have like what I would call like a wow trade on it at the moment. Looking for it above 36.50 this week, if that does happen. Palladium, yeah, palladium and platinum usually move together, so both are doing quite well. So no one is thinking we'll fill a 56.3 gap on the SPY till September, October. I think a lot of people don't think that, yeah. Until then, generally speaking, you get weakness around this period of time if you're going to see it on the S&P. Then you get strength in July. I'm not sure that data like that is that relevant in 2025 when you've got tariff on, tariff off, and now the Middle East stuff going on. But it's always important to know that stuff and then just look for the breakouts. If it agrees with it, sure, it might give you confidence. But if the breakout goes the other way, you've still got to just go with the flows at this point. All we do know is there's a lot of transactions coming through. We need to see more, and we need to see a break either side of the S&P. We have a look at Baidu. Sure, we'll check it out soon. VIX is still doing something on the monthly uptrend, bounce, RSI, moving average, etc. Something is building. There was that large trade that we spotted about a week ago that came in on the VIX. So if we have a look at the weekly, again, just kind of sitting around these levels. For anyone that doesn't know, the VIX or volatility market or volatility index, that often spikes during these types of times. And usually if it's spiking, stocks are down. But in this case, we haven't really had the secondary spike. So what traditionally happens when you get these big ones is there's traditionally a secondary spike relatively soon afterwards. So you can see here, like we tend to get this secondary spike that comes through. This time we haven't had one yet. Now, is that going to happen in August? Is it going to happen in July? Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen in October? I would think there's going to be one, but obviously even this news hasn't been able to push it through now. When do we know the Fort Knox gold audit? Yeah, that went randomly quiet. Does anyone know about the Fort Knox gold audit stuff that was meant to be going on? I heard that everyone was going to Fort Knox and then all of a sudden no one talked about it. You guys reckon the gold's there? Is it gone? What do you think? Where are all the trade deals? I don't know. I don't know where the trade deals are. ES crossed 60.20 again. Yes, don't look at ES for the price that I gave before. ES is not. So ES, for anyone that doesn't know, is S&P 500 futures in the US. That is not the code we're looking at. We're looking at 59.70 currently on the normal CFD. Let's have a look at these cryptos because Ethereum did something quite worrying. It activated, of course, the Wyckoff, and this is coming off huge transactions. So again, my my initial thought here was most trade zone wanted to see this thing go bullish here and then, trip some nice buys and get into it. This is the key. Patient enough to wait. Even if you say activated here, you might say, okay, I'm going to put a quarter of my position on, wait for the trade, get a little bit of pullback, go. So here's half, here's a quarter. Look at that. Position wise, even if you got stopped out here, you only lost a quarter of your normal positioning. Let's say you'd actually activated in here. This is, obviously the other option, which is buyers climax, UT, UTAD. So this is BC, UT, UTAD. It's a form of Wyckoff, and this is a distribution pattern. Now, we do know that this has massive dark pool liquidity transacting through it. We had big flows. This is pretty worrying for, of course, technical traders for crypto, because the big thing here is even now if it rallies, the pressure's to the downside. We rally to the most traded zone. Sellers will be there, you'd have to think. When do we even go bullish on this? You need to go probably like that, or we're going to need to see this type of thing. And then even then, you're not really confirmed till you're above here. So it's pretty bad for Ethereum bulls. What do you guys have for your levels for Ethereum? Let me know in the chat. I'll highlight a couple. For me, probably going to be 1,800 on the buy end, or some kind of 2,700 on the buy end, or wait for structure. That's really about it. All we can really do here. In terms of sells, most traded zones sell down. And obviously, if you're already in a sell, you've got no real reason to say this is a TP zone yet. I mean, what's the significance of this? I mean, yes, couple of lows here. Maybe it stops here, but doesn't seem like it. Browse D Web says he thinks it's going to 0. I think there could be a great trade on FU. FU does degrade heavily, so be careful on that one, K-Debs. 1.8 to 1.9K at worst. Got to break 2.7, 2.8 to go really bullish. Okay, I agreed with you, Gold Rush. Wally says here, I'll buy it $1. Okay, that'd be pretty cheap, wouldn't it? John says here, Nixon took the gold long ago, spent it on cocaine, and then invited Donald. Okay, interesting. I'm convinced we're watching theater every day, more theater. I tell you what, when I've been investigating the AI, okay? And when I say the AI, I've been investigating where we go and pondering this. And I tell you what, the future is both exciting and terrifying, if you know what I'm saying. Like, obviously, for us to get, more wealthy, there's no doubt that there's a second coming of AI. And I'll say this about my opinion on AI right now. We're in hardware stage, okay? So hardware stage always tends to have the same thing. When you're building out infrastructure, you see the hardware, being the semiconductors in this case, go bonkers and often disconnect from reality. I think it's a very important case. You think about the dot-com boom. You think about some of the hardware businesses in that. Remember Compaq? Remember all of these Hewlett-Packard, how that was the coolest thing? Some of obviously the other tech businesses, they went insane. If you also think about it, can anyone guess a couple of other industries that have had similar types of hardware build-outs and then they've underperformed moving forward? And I'm not saying semis will in the same way. Some businesses will. But can anyone guess the one I'm getting at here? Cisco, yes, certainly that one there. It's got to be 1998 with Apple, with AI. I think it's probably around here. Sid says, Tom, I'm telling you, MRK is a year-long downward channel, and that's just hit resistance at 79. Could be 60, 50, 65, 70. Okay, Sid. I'm not doubting it could be there. Railroads in the 1800s. Someone's been listening to me. 3D printing. Okay, so my one here is probably mobile phones. So if you think about it, mobile phone companies, when did they peak? Kind of like 2000. Pretty much a lot of them never even recovered back to, highs around there. In Australia anyway, we actually saw the high of our biggest telco at that point. And when you think about it, that was the hardware build-out infrastructure stage. Now, were there more dollars to be made from mobile phones? Well, I think we all know the answer is yes. Then you obviously saw the carriers built the infrastructure, then mobile companies obviously built out. We got iPhone. Obviously, Apple was incredibly successful with that. But really, the money ended up being in services, product and services. So remember, AI will go to product and services in the future. And that will be where the biggest money is actually made. So the reason I say this, and I want to bring this up, electricity did the same thing. If you invested in electricity stocks back when it was the hot thing, back in the 1900s, and it was super hot, you would have underperformed the S&P 500 if you held the electricity stocks over the last pretty much 100 years plus. You would be underperforming. So the key here is to understand that how do we always see these types of things end? And I'm starting to sniff it out, guys. AI or any great technology always ends with scams. So I ask you, people in the chat, 2,000 people here, have you seen AI scams on the rise recently? Don't click the AI scams, guys, but also more importantly, AI scam businesses. So I'm not going to say any names of names, but let's just say I think there probably are a couple out there, and they tend to IPO. At some point. It says here, it's incredibly easy to make money from Americans. Oh, okay. Oh, you told the Tesla. Okay. I'm assuming that if the dollar, I lost that. Too many people have seen the AI scams. Yes, definitely AI scams are around. Yeah. Most recent companies busted. Yep. 99% API on top of something. Absolutely. Robo taxis are a scam. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, you can claim all of these things. So, the reason I say this is because this is the classic type of thing that happens. And for some people, you've missed out on the semiconductor run. But I would say don't be scared. There are definitely other massive AI opportunities in the future as this all plays out. Now, that could be 2-3 years' time. But just remember, this is the classic thing that always happens. I always think of the dot-com boom, and I always remember pets.com, which I'm not sure exactly on the story there, if I remember rightly, but it was basically a website. And yeah, that was about it. And it was valued at a lot of money. And I always think of Mark Cuban. You guys know Mark Cuban. Actually, when I first heard this story, it got me super into trading. And I heard it back in like 2004. Yeah, 2004, 2005, that area, I think, somewhere around there. So Mark Cuban, in my opinion, pulled off one of the best trades of all time. Does anyone know the trade? So basically, he sold broadcast.com, which was, for all intensive purposes, literally a terrible website that probably was just about streaming and stuff. And he managed to sell it, I think, to HP. And HP basically allowed him to, obviously he had to hold the stock for a while, and he put a massive put on it. And he said to everybody, please put the put on. I don't think this business is worth this much. And obviously, anyone that did kept their money, and anyone that didn't got smoked out. So for him putting that massive protection on that position, he ended up keeping his $1 billion or whatever, versus probably having like 10, maybe 50 mil. So Yahoo, was it? I was Yahoo. Yeah. So that story, in essence, was a huge deal, because I remember I thought, what are these puts? This is back a long time ago. And I was like, wow, this is actually really awesome. And that's an awesome strategy and an awesome call. So I'm pretty sure he knew what he sold. But he went, if they're paying me for this, then what the hell is going on out there right now? And I feel like that's going to be happening a little bit with some API to adjusted AI in the future. Anyway, I digress, guys. I'm talking about stuff. But the reason I mention this is because we tend to do the same thing. So why I'm optimistic in the future, remember, if this does happen and we end up seeing a big crunch in AI, I wouldn't forget that AI is the future. I know that seems easy right now, but people will. And the second thing is, I wouldn't forget that through any type of crash that happens in an industry, best companies form. Innovation happens and the best companies form. That is when you find the absolute gold dust. So that will be it. Nobody said, send me your money now and I'll double it and then I'll send it back to you. Are you a prince by any chance, Nubbies? Are you a prince? Or Nubbles? AI is the end, not the future. Yeah, so that's the bit I don't want to get into, because I was looking into it and I thought most of the most of the scenarios, if we end up getting these superhuman godlike style supercomputers, don't seem to be very good. from what I understand. And this is better, bigger brains than me. They've kind of formulated. It's not looking too good there. Anyway, I don't like to think about that. Let's go with optimism. Optimism is good, at least for the next 15, 20 years, and then we can see what happens. All right. So we've got US 500 stuck in a range. That is our prime star for most of the other markets, including NASDAQ, Dow, Russell. We obviously looked at Ethereum here, which is a horror show and doesn't look very good. Bitcoin is, I don't like that either. I mean, if the low ends up rallying hard and we get through this area, then of course I think that is going to go all-time high. But because it busted this low, you've got to think this is more possibility. So I think I would be, again, long term, more middle term, I'd probably be bullish. I wouldn't add new positions, but I'd be bullish generally. And I'd be looking here or here. I really just don't think there's much edge at this level. Does anyone else agree? Let me know. Don't, let me know. I'll check it out. Silver stuck, gold stuck. Two big zones though, especially gold. If it does break to the upside, we'll be watching for that one. And I guess it's time for us to have a look at these yields. So let's look at the 2-year for a second. 2-year is like an inverse head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, no break in the neckline. So at the moment, going down, what Trump wants. And then we've got the US 10-year. You can see here, it's kind of going down. And then we have the US 30Y, which is also going down. So this is not necessarily the negative that a lot of people are looking for, which is, of course, to see US 30Y above 5 plus, and that to potentially be a really big problem for markets. So if it's declining, not exactly a negative. We're not seeing bond panic still. I'm not seeing debt markets panic still. Remember, when you talk about bonds, by the way, when I say debt markets, I mean corporates. Okay, I always look at corporate bonds. I don't really care about government debt because I know it's all ridiculous. And therefore, if we look at Japan's debt and then we look at it and we say, what the hell's going on here? You will literally never make sense of any market. You'll be like, this is insane. So when you look at Japan, you can then therefore ignore all government debts. And you can always assume that the US can print more than anyone else because they own the US dollar. You guys in the US are lucky because you got the dollar. If you didn't have the dollar, I don't think your $37 trillion would be looking too good. But because you have the dollar, and now the dollar is the number one, you can print a lot more. So I always go, when people are worried about the dollar debts, don't worry too much about the dollar debts now. History will tell us that dollar is unlikely to bust right at this point, and that more print can happen. But ultimately, it is a decline. So if you haven't actually seen Ray Dalio's Changing World Order video, I'm sure you've all seen that. You guys seen that? If you haven't, go watch it after this live stream. Do yourself a favor. Understand the idea. It gives you, I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't really understand the super core concept of that, it gives you this much edge. Almost zero. Okay? Now, you might say, well, why are you telling me to watch this video? Because conceptually, it's a great idea. And then if you start thinking about it, you can start to think about, wait a second, are we seeing this in real time? Does this mean that I have to change my investment portfolio over the next 20, 30 years? And in my opinion, it does. It means that you need to consider that there is a secondary superpower forming as we speak. And of course, where is that? If I had to guess, I ask you guys, where would you guess? Where do you think the secondary superpower is? Is it already known? Or is it going to emerge due to demographics? What do you guys think? How do you open YouTube and not have seen it? What do you mean? What have I not seen? China, China, China. See, all of you guys will say China. I would say it's likely India. That Dalio video is everywhere. Yeah, I think it has like 75 million views. I would be disappointed if you guys hadn't seen it, even the 10-minute one. But you know what? Like, I've talked to a few people over the last years about this, and I find the general population has absolutely no idea about it. So there's 70 million people that have clicked it. 50 million of those people probably went, "What the hell is this?" and they clicked off. And 20 million of them actually started to think about it, which is you guys. India doesn't even have water purification. I think it's likely India. It does the right demographics. It's very similar to China, 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. But right demographics, one of the youngest, the biggest population, one of the youngest populations, and is a bit of a beneficiary. So I think that's something you got to consider in the future. Anyway, it's just my opinion. Some of you totally disagree with me, but it's something you'd have to at least think about. So anyway, that's long-term stuff. We're here. The reason I'm not talking too much about this market is because we did define US 500 levels, and that kind of makes today annoying. And it makes today annoying because, as somebody mentioned before, Eugene, I think, because he said, well, this is annoying. And that's because you're stuck. What are we stuck in? If you're long, well, you probably like sitting here going, this is pretty good because, not sold off. I'm relaxed. I'm chill. But we don't have those breakout points. We don't have a 330 plus on Tesla, which pushes a 350 yet. Now, we're getting there, but we certainly are not pushing through. We don't have too many excellent buy zones. I like Google, even with the governments and everyone getting involved in them, but we're not at 155. We're kind of at that temporary support zone. We need to find a bid. So nothing there. Where on NVDA, I've been so boring this level. Anyone else sick of this one? What is this? What is this? I mean, this is the problem with the pullback in time. Is it's just like up, down. I mean, some of you guys are probably sitting there going, "Yeah, why?" And actually, this type of stuff destroys retail traders. You might say, how does no movement destroy retail traders? Because a lot of them are buying options, and the options therefore expire, worthless, and they then all lose. And at the same time, you'd be surprised how much leverage goes in as the markets go sideways like this. Please, NVIDIA fall to 120 something. Sure. June is the strongest month of the year for Tesla over the last 15 years. Yep, I think it probably is. Market is all green, yields are down. Go figure. Well, that's the traditional way it happens. If Africa united as a country, it would become a major power overnight in many ways, and potentially. Please look at the HIMS more downside. What's a good level for gold? We talked about gold before. HIMS is crashing in pre-market. All right, let's have a look at HIMS because this is obviously a popular kind of retail-y stock that is, that's getting obliterated. That is absolutely getting obliterated. Down 25%. What's the story here? So we've got here HIMS and HERS. Health stock fell over 21% in pre-market trading to $50 basically after ending its partnership with Novo Nordisk over legal compliance and marketing issues. Ooh, that's nasty. That actually was looking relatively decent too. Set resistance. I mean, there's no closure up, and it closed as resistance last week. Going to open at 48. The problem is you can't buy this. Like the rookie error that a lot of people do, unless you have a long-term buy strat, there is almost no edge to just buy $48. I'm sure a lot of people in the chat can tell you this. If you just buy these zones, you generally will lose long-term unless you buy quality stocks that actually go up over time, e.g., like an Apple or a Microsoft or an NVIDIA or something. So you don't have, on days like this, even though it's got a massive move, these are actually some of the most dangerous days to trade it without having further evidence. So traditionally, when something loses 25%, you've got to say, well, why is that? It's probably a good reason. So let's say it goes down the next session. Okay. It goes down the next session. And then it suddenly goes up. On this day, you probably have edge towards buying the long because you've engulfed the previous candle and you can buy it into the close and then usually get a gap up in the next session. That's okay. There's strategy behind that. But if you just go, buy the dip, baby, then what kind of evidence do you really have? And you might say, buy the dip because $50 is the weekly, the daily to 50, and I'm going to buy the daily 50. I'm going to buy the demands. It's just not enough. So that's my opinion here. Expensive Ozempic. How many people do you guys know that are on Ozempic? Does everyone here know someone that's on Ozempic? I know a few people that are on Ozempic. Tell you what, actually a lot. More than I thought. A lot of people on Ozempic I know actually now I think about it. Sneaky, sneaky. Scott says 0. Squeaky says 0. You guys must live like in California or Florida and you must be like running with everybody. Maybe you do like one of those surf life saving club things. I put people on Ozempic, says Jundo. Okay. Yes, my aunt's on Ozempic. I know lots of people on Ozempic. Circle is crazy. Yeah, classic. This is another one. If you're not familiar with it, absolutely ripping puts right now. IPO, obviously, or new onto the market. Traditional US thing. And this is actually telling me something. Like if you look at RK, if you look at IPOs right now, we are seeing pure euphoric runs. And this is classic with leverage from retail as well. This is really interesting. I can't believe the IPO market has improved so much over the last month. So much. And it's just amazing. Like I would never, this one I would not have guessed. If you told me we're going to have 10% tariffs across the board, we're going to have a potential for the war concept, we're going to have at one point 140% tariff or something that sat on there. The market is then going to be near an all-time high. We will not have a tax cut yet. We will not have a deregulation yet. Okay, this is just how ridiculous in some ways 2025 is. And then we will have one of the strongest IPO markets we've seen in years. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Remember, put your opinion at the door in trading and investing and instead follow the flows, follow the movement. It's what this channel's about. You know, we look at dark pools not because I want to go check out, you know, big circles on the chart. It's because I want to know where they're positioned and then I want to see the technical break of that zone. I don't want to fall into the trap of thinking about these concepts. If it's in the press, it's in the price. Patience, react, don't predict, follow the flows. Flows. Because this, you smart people will lose. In fact, in the stock market, I find a lot of people with incredible IQs fail. And it's because they sit there, you know, constantly thinking about all of the risks. How are we playing oil? I don't think there's a play, personally, that isn't mad. Price is king, absolutely. Also, interest rates, no cut. It's probably more expected, but we'll have probably a cut or two this year. I think the market's right on that one. Alex says, that's my problem. I'm too smart. Yeah. You know, it's funny, though. At certain points, I've thought, wow, I know everything about markets. And as soon as I ever thought that, that was a bad play. Yeah. So it's not that I think you're always learning, always adapt, guys. I learn stuff from some of you all the time. I learn stuff from obviously, you know, people that I've talked to. Luckily, I've met some billionaires in life, and these guys have imparted certain knowledge on me, and I impart it hopefully to you guys as well. Because in essence, you know, we're always striving to improve, and whenever you stop doing that, you got to quit the market. When you stop improving, you got to quit, and that's the cool, harsh truth I think about markets. When you stop, you will lose because eventually the markets will overtake your knowledge. So what are we seeing? Let's go to a couple of stocks here. We had some requests before. We had Baidu. We had AMD quite strong, by the way, even with this horrendous looking big daily rejection kind of thing going on there. It's actually been pretty good breakout. I haven't minded AMD recently. It looks like it's trying to play catch up. Let's have a look at Baidu. This was a request from before. It looks pretty terrible. So we're still just stuck in the tight range. We've had a couple of lower lows. No breakout highs yet. Look, it's just an underperforming stock in China. It needs to get above, you know, 97, 9800 close. It probably will come good eventually. It's just not going to do it now. That looks like a penny stock almost to me. We did HIMS, so we had a look at that one. Anyone else actually got good technicals? I'm going to take a couple of requests here as we're coming into the open. We've got 7 minutes till we get to the open, guys. We have a neutralized market, and it is neutral as neutral can get, sitting in the middle of nowhere, 60-20 on the resistance today. You want to go back, I've got all the levels straight up at the beginning of today's video. 60-20 on the resistance for day traders to see whether there's actual sellers there. 60-50 plus closure break should bring in call wall and therefore, get higher, maybe all-time high would be likely. And for the sell side, we're looking at a 59-20 breach close below. That activates the tweezer from the weekend on the weekly, and then we would get towards hopefully 5,800, if not a little bit lower. All right, some of you have come in with some supposedly good charts. Let's have a look here. What about AMD? I think AMD looks relatively strong at this point. I think I'd like to see that play catch up. Okay, so we have here, let's see if I got some names. Morpheus has come in from the matrix for a second here. Got the Morpheus here, slightly red next 2 to 3 trading sessions. Then it's back to business as usual. Market is too resilient. It is resilient at this stage. MRK has great technicals. Now, I'll give Sid a run here because he's posted this MRK all day. So MRK is currently sitting at the level that it was in 22, which obviously is relatively strong. It has a pretty good technical towards the upside in terms of recent price action. It has high volume, which is good because that means there could be accumulation here. And obviously, you're looking for an 86 style breakout. I think this is pretty similar to what I've said before, Sid, about this stock, which is around here. I'd like to see a bid. Now, we haven't got that yet, but we're kind of seeing some. It's just holding, it's chilling. I don't really think that looks negative. I think it looks like a hold at this point. Oklo at support. Oklo, a 2021 stock. 2021 stock? The hell? Why is this so? I thought this was a 2021 stock. What happened over here? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Not really support yet. Probably lower. More like in the 53s. Not really loving that chart too much. MU, a classic underperformer, has started to perform a little bit better. Okay, so that's got a nice breakout, and that's pretty strong. Don't know why there's a chart here, so we'll get rid of that crap. Basically, yeah, I mean, it's a strong breakout, 20, 50 cross, moving average is always good. I mean, it's just, it's bullish for now. It's playing catch up. This is usually running behind the other semis. So to see it actually rally up is good. If you're in it long, you probably wouldn't really want to be out of it until at least up here on 34s. Alan AAL. What's this? American Airlines. Don't like airline companies. They're the worst because if one of them falls out of the sky, then you get in big, big pain. That actually does have a pretty decent setup on it for the long, but I'd want to see a bid here. So theoretically around the long side, maybe get above 11, and actually that might activate some buyers, especially if it gapped up, doing a bit of an island reversal here. It's decent volume. It is one of those things though. CoreWeave. Don't think we have enough data on CoreWeave to really make too many decisions. It's similar to the other. It just rally. Look, there's no reason to really be out of these stocks yet. We don't even know. I mean, look at this. This is going to be squeezing so many shorts, and that's why it went so hard. So if you saw this go past this level and then you bought it, and then maybe even you closed it into the weekend, yeah, it's well done to you. It's a pretty decent squeeze trade, especially for a day option or something like that. There are going to be so many shorts that were there. Now, do I think these are outrageous candles? Of course. And how do we know all of this ends, guys? How does an IPO always end? Comes in strong. Does anyone think this stock's going to hold it? Is 183. If I came back here in 18 months, do you think this stock is worth more or less, guys, than 183? I'm going to put this to a poll. I'm actually really interested in your opinion. 2 minutes till the open. Where is my chat here? Let's get a poll going here. All right. So CRWV above or below 184 in 18 months. Okay. All right, here we go. Do it. Get above or below. Let's see how many optimistic bulls really are out there and how many pessimistic bears there are. All right, that is quite wild. What valuation on this to give you an idea? 88 billion. So obviously now putting it in the perspective of getting up there with some of the biggest. This will be 100% below vote. I don't think so. Now that you've said that, it certainly won't be. Someone's trying to change their vote right now because of that, because of that comment. All right, so we're coming in here. We got below 86, 87%. Most of you guys know that I am usually a fan of I'm a fan of getting involved in the IPO, but I'm a fan of bail towning usually in the first kind of month, 2 months, if not a bit faster. Those who made money on CoreWeave already have made it. Totally agree. 88 billion. Could it go 100? Sure. Could it go 150 billion? Absolutely, it could. But you've got to remember that generally speaking, there is eventually a time to get out of this thing. And because these are quite large, outrageous candles, it's going to have one of those days where it busts 15, 20%. It's then going to most likely recover a lot of that. And that will be a sign of the end. And I will watch it. We'll watch it pretty closely. Ding, 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 ding. Yep, we're open. And we have seen the market come in slightly red here. 0.08 down. We are neutral in terms of pattern here. If I was using my gut, I would say I want a 5,800. If I was using my brain and my knowledge, I would say just look at the key levels. These are the key levels. So really, there's nothing much here because it's this pretty much at this stage. We've gone through that already. Oil, most of you would know that oil tended to follow what we've been talking about. It has literally done exactly as the data suggests it would. So that is pretty wild. Silver is holding. Gold is holding. US dollar is probably the big surprise of the day. And look at this. Tesla pushing a 330 plus on the open. So Tesla's actually trying to break up off its robo taxi, and the retailers are going wild. This is a big closure here for Tesla if that happens. Obviously 330 plus. Let's have a look here at Tesla options. Options actually moved to 340 as the main this week, not 330. But 330 is pretty big. 340 is now the big call. Well, so that's actually a bit of a difference since, okay, and it's actually here on the 18th as well. So for whatever reason, we moved up. So that's probably why it's able to move $10. Okay. 335. So I guess we hit 340 today. Am I the only one who expected the market to tank this morning? Shocked it's running about even right now. It's what you would think is logical with what you, especially here in the press. That the thing is though, what you believe is logic. You got to also understand there's another way to look at this. Sure, is the world looking pretty bad and very shaky? Yeah, I don't like what's going on. I mean, I was watching some video of people walking through like a farm or something, and they were just getting caught in fiber optic cable because this is like where they're putting out these little drones, and the drones are connected to fiber. It's so wild, fiber optics, and there's just all this fiber optic cable floating around or something in the paddock because there's so many drones everywhere. So obviously it's ridiculous. It's terrible what's going on. But the thing about it is that you don't know how much money is going to be stimulated into the economies as well. So the thing about the W word is that it often makes governments overspend, and that therefore helps and benefits many of the largest businesses inside of the exchange. And that's why you often do get spikes. Tom, how about defense stocks? Yeah, so defense stocks in anyway, Europe, I think those trades are already over. The defense stocks in America, like if we have a look at it, Lockheed, this one is, I don't know, Lockheed's probably not the best one to look at, but if you look at it, it hasn't really done anything. The issue is that a lot of the best or a lot of the buyers for these types of, you know, munitions and rockets and whatever else, they're not buying it. As in the countries just won't buy it. Currently, they're saying, wait a second, we think there's too much risk here to buy from the US at the moment. So they're making it themselves or buying from their own businesses. So I guess this is the problem. If you looked at this stock, you'd say, wow, this thing should break out soon because you've got a week, you got another week, and you got another week. That's 3 rejection weeks with pretty big volume. So, there are reasons for why it's sitting, but if it breaks out, it's going to probably break out to the upside. Tesla is going for a bit of a liquidity grab. Certainly could be. The close will be the key here for today. Anyone else tired of 2025 in terms of just like you're feeling tired already? I mean, I'm feeling all right, but I'm just wondering if people are feeling tired out there. If you are feeling tired, I would suggest, and you're probably not going to like my answer, but my answer is that you really want to stop reading the news. You really do, especially if you trade. My mum watches it, and I think she gets upset with everything that's going on. I just said, why watch it? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing to change it? I said, just go out and plant a couple of trees or something. It's like, go garden or something. Just enjoy life because you can't make those changes unless you're going to actively participate in the make of the change. Being quiet, the kangaroo for sure. It's very classic of 2025 to be doing that. Stop what? Watching news. Watching news, paying attention to the headlines. You've got to stop. It'll this year will smoke you out. Like I anyone that's paying attention to the headlines, I know is absolutely fired. It's one of those years you just gotta, especially if you're trading markets. Touch grass. Yeah, I actually didn't know this, but statistically, a lot of people haven't actually touched grass, as in like put their feet on grass. Some people in like a year. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. I'm growing wolfberry plants in this year in my garden. That sounds cool. As an American, how can we not follow the news? Well, I think the thing is, obviously, I understand you can choose not to. It's just that the problem is you probably want to know, or you're scared, or you're happy, or you're whatever about whatever's going on. So, in general, I would say what I found in trading to be really effective is I have to do it because of the channel, but most of the time, because I know most news stories don't play the way you think they will in the markets. You'd be surprised how good your technical trading plus data plus flow would happen if you don't have bias. And bias is driven by emotion. Remember, fear is 2 times more powerful than greed, guys. Once you understand that and you believe it, then you'll realize that whenever you feel any form of fear, you're going to be biased or greed. Tom, have a look at the S&P. Sure. Look at the SPX. I was looking at Lockheed, wasn't doing anything. 50, 59, 74. Market is pretty flat coming in. Certainly not at 60, 20, 60, 15 level. So that's obviously where we think the bears could sit. And for now, it's just kind of like doing not much. Tesla's still pushing higher. Let's say a 340 on that today. Maybe just underneath 340. I'd look at, if I was trading Tesla, I'd be looking at level 2 data right now. NVDA, most of the mags kind of flat. Let's have a quick look at stock, see if it's showing us any signs of real risk here. So what you do whenever you come in the mornings or anything is you want to think about how the market's positioning. I always say the best positioning to watch is actually the close, which is why we do the close show. Let's have a look here. Tom, any opinions on NU? NU. my opinion on this. Doesn't look too great on a chart. This rejection is not usually a good sign. A lot of dojis here. One doji, two dojis, rejection doji again. So you do not want it under 1169. If that happens, then we can go lower. Maybe like 1080. See where that happens in there. Daily. Yeah, so probably at 1080 after that, fill the gap. Not exactly a bullish scenario. One good bullish would be like that. So an instant rejection back up. Did I talk about HIMs? I did, but unfortunately you can't buy something down that much just because you feel like it's cheaper than it was the other day. So you can see here it's now down 28. It was down as much as 30 plus. We'll close the poll. It looks like you guys voted for, in general, 83% of you believed that that stock would be lower in 18 months. Nuclear stocks seem to be up again. One of my favored sectors this year is nuclear. And I do like the nuclear kind of pseudo proxy semiconductor trade. So yeah, you can see here nuclear is very good. I will say I got into this early and had to wait for quite some time. So it did take a little while. Still looking for the defensives to come through. Haven't really seen the defensive moves. So, okay, the day, let's have a look at the 1 day moves. So today, gold stocks are the biggest winners. Utilities are up there as well. Wouldn't say it's a clear defensive day. I wouldn't say that, but certainly we've got, lackluster on a lot of things. Metals still doing well. Basically a metals day. Mostly metals. Can you take a look at TSM? Sure. The TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, probably should really look at its main holding. Because again, it's not actually listed on the primary, is not the US. It still looks pretty solid. I mean, like all semis, they're all back to close to these highs or at a resistance. So it's trading exactly the same as every other semi, except for MU, which is playing catch up, and AMD, which is playing catch up. You see here, TSM was just at the resistance then. So, guys, we're pretty neutral here on the markets. We're still stuck in the range. I know it's boring when you're in these things, but you got to always remember that a coil generally leads to a lot of vol and a big move happening. Tesla's certainly worthwhile watching today. Silver and gold certainly picking up a little bit. Bitcoin, interesting. It's back above 101. Ethereum certainly worrying, but I've noticed Ethereum technicals not holding well over the last kind of year. So that has been, I guess, a worry there. But yeah, I'm still bullish on Bitcoin if you're a hodler. I'm not seeing a new trade just yet here. Yo, this is more bullish than I could have hoped for. Yep. 60, 60, 17, 60, 20. Have a look there today. A hodler, like someone that holds Bitcoin for the longer term, believing it's something that probably is a store of wealth against fiat currency. That usually is the concept. Gold's flying. Gold's improving. Gold stocks are flying a bit more. The GDX. You guys know I'm a bit of a gold. I'm a bit of the trifecta fan this year. There's gold, silver, Bitcoin. I see those all as pretty viable. Remember, in crypto, only Bitcoin, yeah? If you're thinking about buying something as a store of wealth against fiat. The only one I've seen that has the types of principles that actually hold to very similar concepts than gold. In fact, I found it to be incredibly similar. Even Sharpe ratio is not too bad. Gold stock's just coming off the 20. Cool. Why do I feel this bullishness is for a small time? I don't see shooting above the limit Tom discussed. Yeah, well, that's why we have a limit. And we got the 60, 10, 60, 60, 20 area. I'd like to see it get reached today. I mean, why not? And if it shorts off there, then at least, again, if it shorts off there, then we've got a decent case for the market to actually push to 5,800. I would prefer 5,800. Are we looking at weekly charts here? We look at all of them. Uh, Toto said, Tom, I took a small bet where you said initially on the bullish zone for gold, and I went 33.58, and now it's ripping. Yeah, so that was something we talked about in our macro show that I do once a week for our private community. Yeah, I'm plugging it a little bit because we had a pretty interesting one here. It's actually a replicable trade. It's actually one of my day trading masterclass style setups. There's risk there, of course. There are two trades. There is a riskier one, which is more of a day trade, which is where you got it. So well done to you, I guess. Stop loss under here. And then there is another one where it's 34.05 plus and that type of thing. But we don't know that one's active yet. Yeah, if you're in it, well done. I guess we'll see whether it can hit your areas. What's the best way to invest in metals? It's a good question. There's a lot of ways. There is, of course, physical bullion, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but a lot of people do like it. Got to store it, which is the big issue. There are ETFs that hold bullion on your behalf and store it in bank vaults secured. Tends to be the better hodl strategy. So I think that's a good one if you're holding for a long time. There are CFDs for people outside of the US, which is a short-term trade, which is what most people do. And then there are futures in the US, which can be rolled and a little bit expensive. And then there are weird ETFs that you think are safe, and then are actually futures contracts that roll on you. Those ones you got to be very careful of. So remember, if you're trading an exchange traded fund, don't believe it's safe. Search fact sheet and actually read what it is. Classic case is Boyle. I'll show you this, guys. Classic case is this stupid thing. I see this gets people all the time. It's a natural gas fund, yeah? And you might think, oh, it's holding natural gas, all good, until you see this. Oh, yeah. That looks fantastic. This is, by the way, I'm only in January 23 so far. What do you think about that one, guys? If I put $12,000 into this fund in June 2022, I would now have 56 bucks. Can you imagine if you were that person and you didn't know what you were doing and you got involved in this? $12,000, 56 bucks. Wow. And you might think, well, now I'm going to short it. Don't do that either. It looks like it hit support to buy. Yeah. Oh, man, it's bad. This is a horror fund. There are plenty of those, though. That's a great investment. That could go on those Wall Street bets forums. All right, guys. Story of the day so far is probably gold and metals and Tesla trying to rip the 330 plus. And I would be surprised if it can't get to 340. I'd like to see 340. Dollar up 0.5. VIX down, which you wouldn't think, of course. And it's a weird day because in some ways you've got your defensives, your defensives, the trifecta defensives at the moment, or the quad, really. And then you've got the market also up. Watch the 60-20, 60-10. So does that make sense? There'll be so many retail traders saying, oh, what's happening? This doesn't make, I hate the market. This doesn't make any sense. Remember, if it doesn't make sense to you, you have further to learn. If you ever say the word crazy, probably don't know what's going on that day. Sometimes I do say things are crazy. Probably means I don't exactly know what's happening at that point on that particular stock. The key is to have the evidence, to have the confidence to actually say, okay, well, I know I've seen this before. I have a decent play on what's going to happen here. Guys, thank you as always for following the channel. Thank you very much for following 2025, subscribing, setting your alerts, watching the days. I do know there's been quite a lot of later vids recently, just due to some stuff that I'm doing. But look, I'm very, very grateful for everything you guys do. And yeah, I don't take it for granted. So hopefully you've enjoyed the content. If you do have kind of things that you want to see in the daily show, if you think might be doing a couple of polls, I think it's always important to improve it. Do any of you think it's perfect? Do some of you think I should improve it? Chuck some stuff in the comments here. I'll read this on the way out. Always interested in your comments on the daily shows. But I do think we've got probably one of the most comprehensive vids on the planet until AI destroys us all. That's what I was thinking about the other day. Could AI do the show? And I was thinking, no, it can't. It can't get close at this stage, but probably one day. See you on the 2nd. Absolutely, Michael. Be great to see you there. For anyone that's in Melbourne, Australia, 2nd of July, I've got a couple of spots left, I think, for our free kind of live session. Come down, say hey to me. Usually try to chat to everyone I can, get a couple of drinks, and then listen to me say some pretty important stuff, I think. Skynet is real. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Futures. An AI summary of the stocks listed would be helpful. AI summary of the stocks listed. Okay, that's interesting. I thought it was pronounced Melbourne. Yeah, it is. Melbourne. Yeah, that's correct. Melbourne is just how Americans say it. Melbourne. I used to have an American housemate who used to say Melbourne. Robo taxi more powerful than war? I guess today it is. Look at that thing. Love for my Lambo. Which Lambo? If it doesn't make sense, start drawing circles. Got a dash, great channel. Keep us up. Thank you very much. Is this a massive squeeze? I think Tesla is finding a pickup. You can't say that the S&P is squeezing yet. It's not through the main levels. Is TLT just basing for a big move, Tom? I think yes. There's going to be a huge move on treasuries. The Fed's going to have to step in at some point. When that happens, treasuries are going to be the place to be. But treasuries is killing smart bond players. There are so many smart bond players that's so wrong on treasuries. And you'll notice I kind of ignore it a lot because I've always said treasuries isn't a trade, kind of like a long-term hodl. And I think a lot of retail think it's a trade. If I had to guess, obviously at the moment I'd be going the inverse head and shoulders long, but my guess would be actually a white low before going higher long-term. Trump just tweeted for everyone to keep oil prices down. Don't panic. Yeah. What am I going to do if I buy an F-150 here in Australia where you can't park it, or Ram or whatever? Which is the best truck in America, guys? The F-150, the Ram, the Tundra. Are they all American trucks here? Which is the best one? Not that I I'm not sure which is the best one. Someone has an abandoned baby on the spy. Ram is for show. Cybertruck, we can't get that. Tacoma, can't get that. F-150, Tundra, Dodge. Not sure if we can get the Dodge. Ford is the best cheap truck. Mike says they're all junk. Ram 1500. Okay, wow. There's a lot of switch here. You guys don't agree on it. F-250, Ram, Tundra. Toyota. You get the Japanese one. That would be the Toyota. I'm not saying I'm getting one. I'm just wondering. Raptor, that's smaller. Not an American car. I love the comments. I would tell you right now, if I'm reading these comments, you are all split. It's like a third. A third of you like the Ford, a third of you like the Ram, a third of you like the Tundra. Ford F350. I'm telling you, if that thing exists, which it probably does soon in Australia, you would literally eat everyone on the road. It would just drive over everybody and you could not park it. Any Americans, this thing ain't going anywhere. Like nowhere. Rivian. I want a Maloo. That's an Australian old car. F350 is a towing beast. Yeah, that thing would be massive. They all have their issues. All right. Very good, guys. You have literally given me a third of each one. It's like asking someone their favorite stock, and then they all say The big three different stocks. Wait for BYD Shark. That's already here. All right. So gold, silver, good moves, dollar down a little, VIX down, markets up, 60-17, 60-20, that area. Watch it, see what happens. That's going to be the big deciding factor, I think. It looks like the markets might try to squeeze into that, or at least push into that level. It's not actually a squeeze. Remember, until you're through 60-50, you're not really breaking to the upside. And until you're through 59-20, 5900, you're not really through the bottom side. So it's just, look at each stock. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on Monday. We'll see you at the close. We'll bring everything we can. And I'm interested to see the volumes also. Wait. 1 second. It's got to hit 340. Come on now. Come on now. Trade it up, guys. Hey. Yes. Yes. We're almost there. We're not quite. 340. And done. All right. Well done. We finished the show here. Have a great day, everybody. Bye for now.